Welcome to Trial of the Hollywood Sex Therapist Killer, the harrowing and tragic story of Dr. Amie Harwick, who met a tragic end when she was allegedly thrown off her third-floor balcony by her stalker and ex-boyfriend, Gareth Pursehouse. Found clinging to life, but later succumbing to her injuries, Amie's death has raised many questions, with answers to be revealed in court. Join us as we dive deep into the ongoing trial of Gareth Pursehouse, the man accused of this heinous act, and as we seek justice for Amie.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before we broke for lunch, we were talking about what you would likely see around an injection site if the injection occurred during a struggle. So it would be pretty much impossible to do a clean intravenous injection against a person who is struggling, right?
Just as big as the clean?
Well, do you understand what he means?
I assume with no bruising, and yes, it'd be,
Okay, you can answer.
yes, it would be difficult.
And in those kinds of circumstances, the injection would likely end up being intramuscular.
Could be.
There would also be an injection mark.
Most likely.
You testified on direct that many toxicology drug screens do not include a screen for nicotine.
Correct.
Now, pretty much every modern lab in major cities in 2020 were capable of ordering tests that would detect nicotine in a blood sample, right?
I don't know the number, but certainly many labs can.
Such as a gas chromatography mass spectrometry test,
Yes.
or a neutral and acidic drug screens on a blood sample.
They can. It depends. There are many different sort of manufacturers that screen.
Mediated through Internet Suicide Guideline, a case report. This was published in the Indian Journal of Critical Care Medicine in 2020.
Can I be provided a copy?
Counsel?
Yes.
I thought I had everything better.
It'll take me a second just to find it. I have it right here. Are you familiar with that, sir?
You know, I've read many different papers, and I just, without looking at the abstract to know what's in the paper, I can't tell you if I specifically can describe that study.
May I approach?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not specifically aware of this paper, but you know, it's one of many of that sort.
Last one I'll ask about before moving on to another topic. How about the emerging method of suicide by electronic cigarette liquid, a case report, 2016. And this is in the Journal of Korean Medical Science.
Objection Foundation assumes facts not in evidence in 352.
Well, I'll allow him to finish this last inquiry with respect to this particular paper. But that's under 352. I'm going to grant the objection after this question.
Let me give you a copy.
Are you familiar with that article, sir? Okay.
I have not read this article before. No.
Okay. Okay.
So suffice it to say, there are many, many published case reports and papers on individuals going back as far as the 1930s who have attempted or successfully committed suicide using nicotine.
Yes.
And these have been published in reputable, peer-reviewed scientific and medical journals.
Yes.
Let's talk about LD50. So the definition of an LD50 is if the amount in that LD50...
Just for the jury, LD meaning lethal dosage, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. I should have started there.
Yeah.
So 50 means if that dose is administered, half the population would perish and half would not.
Correct. That it was really derived from animal studies of toxicology. It's hard to tell in humans because no one ever gives people doses and see when half of them die.
That would be highly unethical, right?
Yes.
Thank God we don't do that. I mean, even animal studies have their own set of ethical concerns, right?
Correct.
And you use the word estimate. You estimated what the LD50 is. There's no consensus among the scientific community about what that is, right?
But it's difficult to be definitive about it. Again, the way scientists have tried to figure it out is by looking at levels of nicotine in people's body when they die and try to say how much nicotine would they have had to have taken to achieve those levels. And then you get a span of different amounts for different people. And based on that, they estimate what a potential lethal dose is. I think that's the best one can do.
And so in this case, you had to kind of rely on the Mayer paper, which talks about an oral LD50, and then estimate from the oral LD50 to what an injected LD50 would be, based on how the body processes and the differences between oral absorption and intravenous absorption.
Correct.
And you were talking about how you can't really run studies on humans. And so the science and health communities have to rely on these case studies, which are real-life incidents that get reported.
Yes.
And in the case of nicotine, the most frequent types of case studies are accidental ingestion, right?
Yes.
Workplace exposure.
Workplace exposure is different. That's usually with tobacco harvesting.
And suicide attempts is the other common category.
Yes.
Now, on the 25th of July at 10:30, you were interviewed by Deputy District Attorneys Victor Avila and Catherine Mariano over Zoom, right?
I don't recall the date, but I certainly have been interviewed by them.
And a detective was also present, right?
I don't recall.
That was not recorded, was it?
I don't think so.
You ended your direct examination by saying that your opinion is with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
Correct.
You're familiar with ANSI, ANAB, right? ANSI, I'm not sure if you're familiar with ANSI, ANAB, right?
Remind me what they mean. I'm not sure. Tell me the names I could give you. What they stand for.
That is the board. Let's see. I think I have it here. Don't have it memorized. It's the board that publishes best practices for courtroom testimony. It's also the organization that publishes the international standards for lab accreditation.
And no, those are not really in my area, so I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, then it's not really even worth asking you about. I have nothing further.
Okay. Any redirect?
Yes. Do
Yeah. Let me just sit down and I'll give it to you right now. Unless Yes, it's right. I think it's right here.
Well, that's happening. Yes. Counsel asked you about a Google search he conducted about fatal suicide. Looking here with nicotine.
I didn't publish it.
Well, I'm publishing it. That we can make this people's next exhibit.
All right. You're at 70.
70A and B. Is this his Google search that he showed you
Yes,
about articles regarding suicide with nicotine?
yes.
And in what he showed you, does it show anywhere how people are committing suicide with nicotine?
Well, the case reports describing what people did.
Right, but in this document that's provided to you, and I'll bring it up to you, does it show how people are using nicotine to commit suicide?
Well, if you read the articles, you would see.
Right, but you didn't get to read those articles, correct?
Correct.
So you don't know how people are committing suicide with nicotine.
Well,
You mean by ingestion versus
Injection.
swallowing and
Right.
so forth?
from what I have read about this, it's not commonly by injection. It's usually by taking it orally or putting on patches.
Right, so let's say he asked you a question about defendant Pursehouse, if this dosage would be able to kill him. Does he have to inject it to kill himself with that dosage? Or can he take it orally?
Well, it takes much more orally for two reasons. One is that most people vomit when they take it orally, so they vomit up a lot of it. And the second thing, as we discussed before, is the liver metabolizes a lot of it before it even reaches the bloodstream.
Sure.
So only about 30% reaches the bloodstream. So you have to take much, much more orally. It's much harder to kill yourself orally by injection.
But that's assuming he would know how this whole thing would work out for him.
Yes,
So many of the suicides are committed by ingesting nicotine orally,
yes,
not piercing yourself with a needle.
correct.
I have nothing further on.
Anything based on those questions?
Yes. There are plenty, if not dozens, of published studies and case studies and reports of people injecting themselves with nicotine, right?
I don't know how many. There are certainly some.
We're not referring to this at the time. Are you familiar with the case report out of Japan, the 19-year-old woman who injected herself in the arm?
I'm going to object to hearsay to this specific fact pattern
All right, sustain.
in 352.
Okay, you have in your studies and publishing, you have read case reports and articles where people have injected themselves
I think
to
he's-
commit
he's answered
suicide.
yes to that.
Okay.
Is that correct? Doctor?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But it's your testimony that those are the minority of suicide attempts, that the majority are through ingesting either a liquid or something else?
Correct.
Anything?
No.
Thank you, Doctor. You may step down.
Thank you.
Hey, call your next witness.
Then people call Mr. Michael Sewell.
All right. Sir, if you could raise your right hand, please.
You solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
My name is Michael Sewell. That's MichaelSewell.
All right, Counsel.
Thank you. What do you do for a living?
I'm a senior criminalist with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
What are your duties as a senior criminalist?
Right now, I'm assigned to the forensic biology section as well as the CSI section.
And how long have you been a senior criminalist?
I believe somewhere around 2015, so 8 years.
What's your background, training, experience that qualifies you to be a criminalist?
I received my bachelor's of science degree in chemistry from the University of California, San Diego. I received my master's of science degree in criminalistics from Cal State LA. I received internal training on the identification and detection of bodily fluids, as well as the analysis and interpretation of DNA, and then most recently, the documentation and collection of crime scene evidence.
Now, as part of your duties, were you assigned to examine an item of evidence associated with LAPD case number, DR number 20060606220?
May I refer to my notes?
If that would refresh recollection?
It will.
Yes.
You said the last 5 digits were 06220?
Yes.
Yes.
And was that item number 34 that you were assigned to examine?
One moment, please.
Looking at your notes, refresh recollection, this is the item number?
Yes.
With the court's permission?
Yes.
Yes, it has a number 34 written on the outside of the envelope. When it came to our sheriff's department, it got a new item number, and it was item number 1.
And why is it that once it arrived at the sheriff's department for your examination that it received a different number?
The number's different just because we're 2 different agencies. So we only received this item for evidence. So underneath this case, there's only one item. It gets number 1.
At this time, remember the people are holding 2 photographs of an envelope. May that be marked as people 71A and B? Or actually, yes.
Yes, and you'll attach them together, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
I'm showing you what's been marked as people 71A, which appears to be the front of an envelope, as well as 71B, which appears to be the back of an envelope. Do you recognize these 2 pages?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
I believe I was the one who photographed that or copied that envelope.
And is this the package in which the evidence was received by you in order to conduct your examination?
That's correct.
When did you receive this particular item of evidence?
August 3rd, 2023.
And when did you actually conduct the analysis of that item?
The analysis of the item started on August 16th and was completed on August 17th.
Now, what item of evidence did you actually receive inside of this envelope depicted in People 71?
It was one swab that was yellow and gray in color.
And was that a swab of possible urine, as it was reported to you?
Yes.
What kind of analysis did you conduct on this particular item of evidence?
It is standard for our urine analysis to conduct a semen analysis and then a urine analysis. We conduct the semen analysis to make sure that we can rule out semen because it has some similar components that also appear in urine. So we want to rule out semen in order to give a conclusion about urine.
Could you explain the process of your analysis in making your determination first about semen and then about urine?
Yes, so for semen, I use a black light to see if there's any fluorescence on the swab. If there is, I will use a color test that's a little bit more specific for semen. If that is also positive, in this case it was, I will then move on to a microscopic examination for sperm heads. If I do not find any sperm heads, I did not in this case, I move on to my last test, which is a P30 test. P30 is a fluid that shows up in moderate amounts in seminal fluid. I ran a P30 test, and it also came up negative. So I determined that semen was not detected in this item.
After you determined that there was no semen detected in the item, did you then proceed to conduct an analysis in regard to whether there was urine?
Yes.
And could you explain that process?
That one's much simpler. I simply extract the swab, and then I spot that extraction on filter papers. I then use 2 color tests on it, one that detects urea and one that detects creatinine, 2 common components of urine. And if both of those components are present, there's a color reaction. And if both of them are positive, I conclude that urine has been indicated.
Now, just to be clear, are you able to make a determination as to whether this is human urine or that of animal urine?
I am not.
You're just able to establish that the sample itself contains urine.
Yes, urine is indicated.
And in this specific sample, you detected urine?
We say urine indicated because there are some substances that we have to take into account and possibilities in order to make sure that we cannot fully rule out the presence of these other substances. That's why we say urine is indicated. It is our best conclusion that urine is there. We can't say for sure.
So in the specific item number 34, or as labeled by the Sheriff's Department, item number 1, urine was in fact indicated in that swab.
Yes, and indicated is our strongest conclusion, our strongest positive conclusion. We just do not say detected.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Just briefly. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Does it hurt your neck to turn this way?
No, I can do both.
Okay. I just have a few questions.
Okay.
I want to follow up on your last statement that it's the best conclusion your lab can reach as to the determination that urine is indicated. Is that correct?
Yes, it's what I was trying to say. It's the strongest. It's the most positive. So there isn't a urine detected that we just didn't get to. It's urine indicated is our best conclusion. We have other conclusions for if we urine inconclusive or urine not detected. But I was trying to be clear that urine indicated is as high as we go.
Do other labs do additional tests to confirm presence of urine that your lab did not conduct?
Objection, speculation, last
Well, I don't know. It's a general question. Are there other labs that could conduct examinations at your lab?
There might be, but I would be speculating.
Okay, then it's sustained.
So you indicated that you cannot tell whether this was human urine or from an animal. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if there was a cat in the home, you could not exclude the cat from the donor of this urine that was swabbed and received by the LASD.
That is correct.
Also, you did not do any DNA analysis on this urine. Is that correct?
No, I was strictly told we are receiving this item for urine analysis and urine analysis only. LAPD was handling all the DNA.
Okay. And so that meant that you could not determine any type of DNA typing from the urine to determine who the contributor of the urine was. Is that correct?
That is correct, but it is our policy that urine cases are separate from DNA cases. We do not determine DNA on urine cases. They would have to be 2 separate items of evidence or 2 separate tests.
And the testing that you did, when you ruled out the presence of semen to make sure that you weren't testing semen, that testing is not conclusive to determine that the source of the urine came from a female as opposed to a male. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase the question? I think I understand, but could you do it one more time?
The testing you did you cannot say with scientific certainty that urine that you tested came from either a male or a female. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down. Thank you.
Detective John Lamberti.
All right.
What's my next exhibit in order?
You have 72 next one.
72.
Yes. Detective Lamberti, if you could approach the witness stand here, please. And raise your right hand.
You solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Is that seat? Please state and spell both your first and last name.
John, John, Lamberti, Lamberti.
All right, counsel.
What is your occupation and your current assignment?
I'm a detective with the Los Angeles Police Department. I'm assigned to West Bureau Homicide.
And how many years have you been a police officer?
14.
How many years have you been a detective?
Almost 8.
Out of those 8, how many years have you been assigned to the homicide division?
7.
I want to draw your attention back to February 16, 2020. Well, actually, let's go back. February 15, 2020, were you one of the detectives involved in investigating a death that had occurred at 2086 Mound Street?
Yes.
And as part of your investigation, the next day on February 16, 2020, did you have a search warrant issued for some Nest cameras at 2086 Mound Street?
Yes.
And were photographs taken of the barcodes in the back of each of those cameras?
Yes.
And did you attach those to your search warrant and have that signed by a judge?
I did.
And then was that search warrant then sent to Google, who owned Nest camera at the time, to see if there was any records related to this camera?
Yes.
Okay. And on February 21, 2020, about 5 days later, did Google email you a link with videos that they had in that from your search warrant?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a DVD been listed by People's Number 72. It contains 8 video clips. Did that be marked to 72?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to show you some of these video clips and ask you if these are the records that were returned to you by Google. First, if we could, before we play them, do you remember when Google sent you these 8 video clips from the Nest camera, were they all for one particular camera?
Yes, they were.
And here showing you, I think it's clip number 1, and we're going to identify it by looking at the top left corner, the year 2022, February 5th. I believe that means February 5th. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah, 2020-02-05.
And then is the time 21:51, is that UTC time?
I don't know if that's local time or UTC time.
In any event, this appears to be a camera inside the living room area.
Correct.
And are all the 8 video clips from that living room area?
Yes, they're all from that one camera.
And are all of the clips, except for one for the date of February the 5th?
I believe so.
Okay, I'm going to play just this one for now. That's as a date of February 5th, 2020. And this video clip is about 16 seconds long. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with these type of Nest cameras?
Yes.
Is that typical that they will is 16 seconds an amount of time that they would typically record if they're activated by motion?
Objection Foundation.
Well, I don't know. Are you able to answer that question?
I can speak generally, having downloaded video from many different surveillance systems. That's a typical behavior of surveillance systems that are activated by motion.
Okay.
Now, if we could just see. Can we move this page bigger?
These are images of the victim's home, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Are all these video clips showing the living room within 2086 Mound Street?
Yes.
And are all of them with the date? If you could look up, are you able to see the dates on all the video clips?
Yes.
Are all of them from February 5th, except for one?
Yeah, so I'll accept the last one, which is February 13th.
Let's click on February 13th, the last one. And we're playing that right now. Do you see? Let me stop here. Do you see the time on this? It says the year 2020, February 13th, and then 7:20:36. Do you know what kind of time that is?
That looks like it's probably 7:20 in the morning because the other clips were in 24-hour time. So my assumption is that they're being recorded in 24-hour time. So that would be 7:20 in the morning.
And did it appear that there was like, I don't know if it's some part of a spider web or string that may have activated the camera?
It appeared.
Speculate.
Sustain.
What did you see something in front of the camera moving?
Yes.
What did that appear to be?
I thought it was a spider web.
In this particular clip, does it look like it's nighttime?
It's hard to tell because the lights are off. So all I can tell you is that it's dark inside.
Are the French doors there, are the curtains open?
They do appear to be open. Yes.
And, what does it look like outside, if you're able to tell?
It seems like it might be dark, but these infrared cameras are notorious for giving off false color images. So it's really hard to say.
In any event, did Google send you any video clips for the date of February 14th, Valentine's Day, or February 15th?
No.
And do you know why this was able to be saved, these particular clips?
I can speculate as to why.
Well, we don't want you to speculate.
Right.
So,
Do I have to?
no. But in any event, these are the ones that they sent you.
Correct.
And you did not check the victim's phone to see what, if any, Nest videos were on that phone.
We weren't able to get into her phone, so no, I wasn't able to check.
Well, you were not able to get into the phone at a particular point in time.
Correct.
You don't know if other detectives were able later on to get into her phone.
That I don't know.
Nothing further on.
Prosecution.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I'm going to leave these over here. So, Miss Harwick's phone was recovered from 2086 Mount Street, right?
Yes.
And on the 9th of November 2021, Detective Carranza signed out the cell phone and gave it to you, right?
Yes.
And you took it to the Orange County Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory on the 16th of November, right?
That sounds right, yes.
And it was in possession of the lab until it was partially and fully downloaded in 2022.
Correct.
And then you picked up the cell phone and gave it to Detective Carranza on the 6th of December in 2022.
Yes.
And that phone was extracted eventually by the Orange County Regional Computer Forensic Laboratory, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And the reader of the extraction is called Celebrate, right?
Celebrate, yes.
And Celebrate generated a report.
Foundation as to this witness?
Well, I don't know. Do you have a note, or would you be?
I do know, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Celebrate, the technicians would have generated a Celebrate report from the raw data extraction.
And you reviewed that Celebrate report?
I did not look at that Celebrate report, no.
Isn't it true that you were the examiner on a Celebrate report for the voicemails on this phone? Would it refresh your recollection?
It might, yeah.
Can I approach?
Yeah.
If you can just look at the examiner name.
I can't tell what phone this is from because I I did look at some other phones. So, just looking at that report, I can't tell what phone that's from.
You can tell that it's an Apple iOS, right?
Right.
And that your name is in the examiner name row, right?
Yes,
And it's for this case, right?
it is. Yes.
Do you recall reviewing the report for Ms. Harwick's phone that had all of the voicemails on her phone?
Objection foundation.
Well, he said, does he recall? Did you look at them?
I don't remember if I did or not. I look at hundreds of phones, but if my name's on it, then I probably looked at it. Yeah.
I have the complete report. The one I just showed you was just an excerpt from it. May I approach?
Yes.
So this has all of the files that were in this report.
Oh, I can tell you why. So I originally got the raw data extraction from the Orange County Forensic Lab. I took the phone myself to try to open it up using their computers, and the file was so big. I let the program run over the weekend. I left it there on a Friday, came back on a Monday, and the Celebrite reader still hadn't opened up the file because it was that big. And so I took it off and gave it to Detective Carranza, and he took it to our lab where they did the extraction. But because I initially started the download, that's why my name is on it.
Okay, so even though it says you're the examiner of this report, you didn't examine the report.
That's correct. Yes, it's left over from when I initially opened up the Celebrite program to do the download or generate the report. I would put my name in, and so that part of it stuck, but the actual report didn't run. So I gave it to Detective Carranza, who someone else extracted it.
Based on your background training experience and working with this lab in Orange County, do you believe that that report that has your name on it and that I showed you is accurate?
Objection foundation.
Do the people have an objection for me introducing something that was generated from the extraction on
This
that?
witness, yes.
Okay. I would like to introduce one of the voicemail from this exact report that has his
I
name.
understand, but it has to be through the appropriate.
Okay. All right.
Whatever she means.
All right. So, I'd like to talk about your background training experience a little bit. You have been a sworn peace officer for the Los Angeles Police Department since July 2009, right?
Correct.
You were promoted to detective in November 2015.
That's right.
And you've been lead investigator in hundreds of investigations, right?
I have.
You've been in a position of homicide detective since November of 2016.
Correct.
You are, I believe, are still assigned to the West Bureau Homicide, right?
Yes.
And you have written and served hundreds of search warrants for physical locations, and many other things like vehicles, people, cell phone records, internet records, and business records, right?
I have.
And you have extensive hands-on experience in the recovery and preservation of evidence, including cell phones, computers, and digital video recordings.
Yes, I do.
You're familiar with preservation requests.
Yes.
A preservation request is a request that law enforcement sends to an entity that may have records or other evidence in their possession.
Yes.
A preservation request would compel the recipient of that preservation request by law to preserve a copy of records or other evidence in their possession.
That's right.
Relevance and overbroad as to which.
Sustained. You describe the process, so yes.
Okay.
Sustained.
In this case, Detective Carranza sent preservation requests to Instagram and Twitter.
Objection foundation.
Is that a question? Did you?
No. Does he? To your knowledge, you
Personal knowledge.
You worked in this case. You're aware. Are you aware that Detective Carranza sent preservation letters to Instagram and Twitter?
I don't. I'm not sure. I don't know that.
Okay, so let's talk about the warrant to Google regarding these Nest cameras. You were the, I never know how to pronounce this, affiant? The affiant for the search warrant?
Affiant, defiant, I think either way.
All right. You were the affiant.
Yes.
That means that you, the law enforcement officer signing the affidavit of probable cause for the warrant, right?
Yes.
And that affidavit included your belief at the time about the possible evidence at issue.
Yes.
Your beliefs at the time that you put down into your affidavit were based on
relevance.
Well, let him finish his question.
were based on investigation that you and others had done up to that point in time.
Right.
And the affidavit was under oath, right?
Yes.
So you believed at the time that Ms. Harwick's residence had this security camera installed, right?
Yes.
That this Google Nest system is a system manufactured by Nest, which is a subsidiary of Google.
Yes.
That Nest sells a variety of smart home products that can be controlled through a user's smartphone
Yes.
using the Nest app.
Yes.
That Nest security cameras continually upload video and audio to their cloud.
They have the capability, yes.
And depending on the plan that the user subscribes to, up to 30 days of video can be stored and accessed using the Nest app.
All right, under 352, the court then imposes some objection at this point. I take it as the affiant to the search warrant was seeking a footage of the video recordings from particular days. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, you were provided certain dates,
Correct.
but not the, what was it, 13th to 14th or 14th to 15th?
The 14 to 15.
Okay, all right. Let's move on, Counselor.
So, you specifically requested all footage between January 17th and February 15th, right?
That's right.
For 4 cameras, right?
Correct.
And you believed that because there were notifications from the Nest app on her phone, that these cameras had recorded something.
That's what I believed at the time, yes.
And that these cameras were discovered installed in various locations throughout the house,
Right.
showing the interior and exterior of the property.
I believe it was both interior and exterior, yeah.
And it was your belief at the time that the cameras almost certainly captured audio and video of the events leading up to Ms. Harwick's death.
When I wrote the search warrant, that's what I believed, yes.
And so once the search warrant was signed by the judge, you uploaded that to the LERS portal.
The Google Law Enforcement portal, yes.
And that's where they accept legal service of legal demands, right?
Correct.
It's a portal that you have an account, you can log in and upload a document, right?
That's right.
And you uploaded that warrant on the 16th of February.
I did.
And on February 21st, 2020, Google responded with a letter, right?
A letter and 8 videos.
And you reviewed the videos that same day.
Yes.
You saw that there were no recordings from the February 14th or February 15th.
I did notice that, yes.
And then you called Google to ask if there was a problem with your warrant.
I called Google to see why I only got 8 random videos when I was under the assumption that they would have been recording, more often.
So you also emailed them on the 21st of February, right?
I believe so, yes.
And you had a conversation with somebody who responded to your email.
Right.
And in that conversation, you learned that Ms. Harwick, her account had a setting where it only retained video for 5 days.
I don't recall the exact number of days, but that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to look at a declaration from a Google custodian of records?
Yes, that would be very helpful.
I just need more time.
All right.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm having just a brief technical issue.
More of the trial of the Hollywood sex therapist killer is on the way. Press subscribe now so you don't miss a moment of this riveting courtroom drama as we seek justice for Dr. Amie Harwick.